Good afternoon, everyone, and happy Independence Day. Once more, we've made it through to another Independence Day. This will be the fourth year that I will be doing a marathon stream. I want to quickly cover that before we really get going, as we're waiting for people to jump in. If you check in my descriptions, each stream is scheduled for 2 hours, which we all know how that works with me. Yeah, they're subject to go longer, depends on the conversations and how many people we get interacting throughout the day. But at 2 o'clock, I'll shut this stream down, and as soon as I shut it down, we'll take a 10-minute break, and I will restart the next stream. The links are all in the description. At 2 o'clock, at 2:10, we'll be doing call-ins, live call-ins. I'll be posting a number for everybody that would like to call in or that don't want to be on the Hangouts. Then at 4 o'clock, I will be doing the same thing, except for I will be jumping over to the Gathering app over on the Mines. Still be streaming here on YouTube. And I will do 2 hours from the Mines as well. Then for our final 2 hours after 6, it will be just what you're normally used to with me. But we celebrate our freedoms, our liberties. This day is supposed to be about remembering why we have such a great country, remembering what our founding fathers fought for. I know right now we're not living in perfect times. And I know right now many people are out enjoying celebration picnics, which is what this day is also about. Celebration, celebrating our freedoms, our liberties, our rights. Spending time with the family, communities. Here for probably about a good another 15-20 minutes, you're going to hear a lot of traffic in my area. I live out in the country, but small little blink of the map town that's, I don't know, you can't even call it, couldn't even class it as a town anymore. But every year they do a 4th of July parade. They've been doing it since I was a kid, and they still continue to do it. You know, I touched on this like last year or the year before, that I was amazed to see how many people are actually still going there. In fact, it was more than I've ever seen. And that just shows you the steps that has been taken after this, with this last election with Trump. The true meaning of Make America Great Again. People feeling more patriotic, bigger parade, 4th of July parades and stuff. It's amazing to see, amazing to be around the people. That's kind of why I got a little late start. Our little plans for the day were canceled, so due to some family issues and stuff that's come up. So no barbecue here, unfortunately. I was kind of looking forward to that. But I was also looking forward to this just as much. This is like my favorite thing every year. And yes, guys, I don't know what's going on. I've been having issues. As you guys have seen, it's buffing. So the call-in part might not happen. Because I had to use Streamlabs for that. But this just started yesterday. You know, I don't know how many people are aware that there was all kinds of issues on the internet. Cell phones were having issues. You know, a lot of things were going down. I don't quite understand what was going on. Nobody really does. It was just every platform, every communication network, even satellite providers were having issues yesterday here in the United States. So something to keep an eye out on. For those that have got watching from the mind or from Sons and Daughters of Liberty on the WordPress, or from Patreon. You guys actually have all the videos linked for each stream, so all you have to do when this one ends is just scroll down a little bit and click on the next video. On Sons and Daughters of Liberty, the chat still works, so you can just scroll down to the bottom, click on the chat link, and it'll pop up a chat, so you can interact in the chat rooms. Like I said, I've kind of put a little more work into it this year, more things I want to do. As I've stated, I'm doing things a little bit differently here now with Sons and Daughters of Liberty. I'm starting to push to get it to where I originally, the first concepts, and when a few of my friends sat and talked about it, what we wanted for this channel, the idea of it, the concept of Sons and Daughters of Liberty. It was meant for everyone. Your opinions, your views. That's what we're celebrating today, that freedom. It doesn't matter if we agree or disagree. It's about having a place to go express those things, talk about those things, learn from each other. Coming together, because we're all brothers and sisters. We're all Americans. I don't care what your race is, what your gender is, what your ethnicity is. You're United States citizens, you're Americans. That's what I see you as. And that's something that to me is very important, because we get caught in those labels, we get caught in those identity, identity politics, where they got to class us as a label and divide us, put us in categories. When the only thing that matters is what we are. We're Americans. First off, we're human beings. Second off, we're Americans. Those of us who live in the United States, we're U.S. citizens. We celebrate our Independence Day. Because of that, we fought to get those freedoms and liberties. Our founding fathers wrote a constitution that is granting us all those freedoms. Freedom of speech and expression, freedom of the press, religion, the right to bear arms, and so much more. Because they knew. Sometimes we forget about our history. Our history is rich. Yes, it has its dark spots, but every history does. You can't, and those dark patches, they're meant to remind us not to repeat those things. Our founding fathers wanted to get away from the oppression, the rule of the British rule, the Crown rule. They wanted their freedoms. They didn't want to be taxed to death. They didn't want to not own their land and being told and have their land taken from them. They wanted to be able to practice their religious beliefs no matter what they were. Many of our founding fathers and forefathers, they came to this country fleeing the persecution of the Catholic Church. Like I said, a lot of people's forgotten that rich history. Give me liberty or give me death. We live in a day and age where those very ideas are always being threatened. But yet there's so many proud Americans, so many patriots that stand up and continue to fight. Our men and women in uniform. They sacrifice a lot. Family. I don't know, a lot of people don't agree with the wars and stuff. I don't like war as much as the next person. But there is a time and a place for all those things. It reminds me of Ecclesiastes. There's a season for everything. There's a season to love. There's a season to hate. There's a season of peace. A season for war. There's a season to plant. There's a season to reap. Everything has a season. And that's truthfully, it is truth. Everything has its season. Sometimes those seasons are being manipulated and forced. for greedy people that want to oppress the people. Kind of today I'm not going to be posting anything or tweeting anything. Well, I'm not going to be tweeting anything while I'm doing the live streams, but when I'm not in between, when I'm not doing the live streams or when we start getting guests on to where I got a little free time to roam while they're talking, I'm not going to be sharing the negative tweets today. Not today. We have enough of that. I'm sure there's going to be stuff talked about today that will go down those lines. That's okay. It's what we're celebrating, the freedom to express ourselves, the freedom of speech, the freedom to be able to talk about our concerns, our worries. But it's also time to celebrate, talk about the good things. You know, we get really down and hard on the police, the men in blue, men and women in blue. Now, I've seen a couple of videos here of late, and I've actually retweeted them on Twitter. Amazing to finally see the other side of things. There was an incident, I can't remember where it was at, but it was just the other day, it was posted as body cam video footage. Two cops, there was a suspect, had a knife. I mean, and I got to give my hats off to both of these officers for the patience and doing everything they could not to shoot the person with lethal force. I mean, they went, in my personal opinion, they probably went too far with it. I mean, they were just walking backwards and backwards and backwards all the way into a busy street. Then the guy responds, usually non-lethal force, and he shot. Dude was coming at him with a knife. He wouldn't drop it. He didn't even drop it after the first attempt at non-lethal force with the rubber bullets. I mean, he pretty much got right back up, still with the knife, and proceeded to continue to come at the officer. Then after the rubber bullets didn't work, the officer radioed and said, use the taser. After he said that, dude finally charged him. Got a little tussle, managed to get behind him with a knife, stabbed him a couple times. And the other officer still tried to use the taser. Then it got to the point after reality sets in that time. Okay, my partner has been stabbed a couple times, and there was no point. After that, it was lethal force. You got to commend the officers that go that extra mile. I mean, personally, as soon as the dude charged, it should have been lethal force. Because dude wasn't not gonna stop. He was shot with the rubber bullets. I mean, even at that point before the lethal part came in, he was shot with the taser, and he still wouldn't drop the knife and still kept on. Then last night, right after I got done watching After Hours, there was a post from an officer talking about, this is the community, how the community does support the officers when they're in need. Cop was making an arrest, and the dude just wasn't being cooperated. It ended up taking the officer down and started beating him. Well, all the people around that were walking by, they came to the cop's aid, and they drug him off him and literally beat the crap out of this dude. And it wasn't just one or two. And let me tell you something. It was a white officer and a black man. That's how it started. And guess what? It wasn't just white that pulled him off. It was blacks. It was the community protecting the officer that was doing his job. I know we get hard on our men and women in blue, and sometimes it's needed. But it shows you there's still people that trust and respect the police. There's still police that do their job, that believe in protecting and serving. And the community, when the community sees that, they defend those that are in need. That's being a good Samaritan. That's being an American. That's what being an American is about. Protecting and watching out for each other. That's part of our independence stance. Why I brought this up. Because we know what happened in Portland. We know the blame game that's going on. But most people were never even told about the mass exodus that was taking place of cops leaving Oregon, Washington, because they can't do it. They can't protect and serve. They can't do their oaths. So the only thing they could do is leave and find employment elsewhere. That shows you how the state of things in certain states have become. You can't always just blame it on, you know, the men in blue, the men and women in blue. We can't be blaming on our first responders all the time when something goes wrong. Things are going to go wrong. Things are going to happen. It's about, and I know there's been a lot of cases where that trust has been lost for good reason. But where I see things like that, those are the things I'd like to see more of. Because it shows, there is still communities that trust their men in blue, men and women in blue, people in uniform. As many of you know, I'm a big supporter of vets. I come from a family that has huge military background. You know, most of my family's all served except for a few of us. Those that haven't, we've always been a part, even with doing things for the local legions, the VW halls. Always supporting them. Standing up for their health care, the VA hospitals, wanting more. Because these soldiers put their lives on the line. They swear an oath, just like most of the people we talk about when we talk about oaths, to defend and protect our nation, but just not our nation, to our Constitution, our liberties and our freedoms. Whether we agree with the war that's going on or not, that's what they do. They put the ultimate sacrifice. They're sacrificing their family. They're going out there bleeding, and so many have died for the very concept that we're celebrating today. Many good police officers have done the same. Many police officers are actually vets. Firefighters the same way. Pretty much all of our first responders, even doctors. I remember don't remember the good old days. I'm not that old, but I remember watching the videos, the stories, of course, reading the histories of World War II and stuff. How many professional baseball players, professional actors and stuff didn't hesitate. They signed right up and went overseas to fight. It's a sad reality. We live in this time and age. How many would do that now? Sadly, very few. We've gotten away from a lot of things. We've gotten away from more things than we should have ever gotten away from. Now we've forgotten a lot of our past, our history. And that is a very, very dangerous when we start allowing our history to be rewritten or taken away. I know people have opinions about the Civil War monuments, but they're very important. They're a part of our history. Most people don't even know what started the Civil War. Most people got the misinterpretation that it was about something else that keeps getting thrown out there, and it wasn't about that. You know, those are the things we have to remember. Like I said today, talk about our history. Talk about why our founding fathers founded our country. Talk about the Constitution. Don't talk about the political side of things. You don't have to. It's the history that needs to be taught. Why we celebrate our Independence Day. And why it's so many people want to take our freedoms away. Why there's so much issue with censorship. Why almost all the major networks are refusing to air the parade in Washington and the fireworks. For those that want to watch it, it'll be on Fox. Only network that's going to cover it because the rest said no. Now, in some areas, I know a few places, I've heard some local TV stations say they are going to cover it because they just completely disagree with what their major networks are trying to force them to do. So we'll see. It would be nice to see the local TV networks stand up against their bigger owners. I mean, out of all of the times, the days, the years to pull a stunt like this, they choose today. Some could say, well, that's what we are celebrating, and we are. They do have that right, and they do have that choice. But the only people they're hurting are themselves. And I find it very disgraceful, personally. But they have those rights. I understand that, and I respect that. Just like I have the right to talk about it and say how much I think it's very disrespectful to every American citizen, every soldier that's laid their life down for the concepts of what we're celebrating today. Not concepts, because they've been proven throughout history, clear down to the American dream, clear down to our immigrants that came to this country and became U.S. citizens because of what we stood for, what we still stand for today. Those freedoms, those liberties, free from oppression. I mean, we have our issues. We all know that. We talk about them on a daily basis from being illegally taxed. They kind of forget taxation without representation because they think they are the representation. They misinterpret that aspect. And they abuse it. I've talked about this a lot. You know, every good thing is going to get abused. It doesn't matter where you go, where you try to run to. Sounds good at first. Oh, and it usually is at first. But eventually it gets used and abused. I mean, we've seen it on the mines. I mean, I called this one as soon as I seen it. Love how it's set up. Love the system in place. But the jury system has gotten abused already. It was just a matter of time. But one thing I give credit to the mines when they do see things like this, they find ways to fix it. They find ways to make changes to make it better. To this day, right now, this is the perfect representation of a free speech platform. Yes, you might. It has its trolls. Every place that you go has its trolls. It has the people that are going to come out there, constantly report your stuff. But you know what? At least your stuff's not getting deleted, and at least you're not getting banned. For one, the jury doesn't have no say or control over banning a person. They can't deal with those matters. The only thing that the jury has control over is pretty much, well, if your content needs to be marked not safe for work. But we've seen how it works. You get so many people attacking, reporting. And there's still a strike system in place, which is fair. I mean, three strikes, just like baseball, three strikes, you're out. Except for now, it's three strikes and your whole channel's marked not safe for work, which kind of does suck for those that use the app because you can't, they've got it so you can't see not safe for work content in your feeds. You can still go to the person's page and see their page. You can still go to the groups and see the groups that are not safe for work on the app. But it's just the main feed. You can't see nothing. Nothing will show up. That's not safe for work. Just like if you go into your settings and you have access, even here on YouTube, you have access to put restricted mode on so you don't see mature content. We have responsibilities ourselves. If you don't want to see that stuff, do your due diligence. Show respect to others that want to express their freedoms, express their rights. Just like me. Today I'm going to try to refrain from all the colorful language that I have a tendency to drop. So I don't have to mark these as age restricted. But that don't mean if you come on you have to, because you don't. You have the right and the freedom to say what you want. Because I know sometimes we get on topics that are just, I know how it is. You get your blood boiling, you get your adrenaline going. You want to talk about it. Emotion comes in. It's going to happen, and it should happen. We should be emotional and very opinion outspoken when it comes to the infringement of our freedoms and liberties. You know, we should not give quarter. Hence why the very first part of this 2 hour, I entitled this the way I did, Happy Independence Day. Give me liberty or give me death. Those words, that whole statement that was said by Patrick Henry, it still holds true today. Every word he said. No, we might not be facing Brit, Britain invading our soil, but those words still hold meaning today. Clear down from our big tech companies that pushing censorship, the corruption that's going on. We should never bow down to anybody that tries to take our freedoms and liberties. I've seen so much chaos and division, them trying to pit people against each other. I had thought about going to the Freedom Rally on the 6th in DC. I actually gave quite a little bit of thought to it. Enough thought that my camera bags are actually packed. But then I've heard certain people that I wanted to go see start taking stances on things that I don't agree with right now. The Freedom Rally should be just about that freedom. Words, expressing our words and freedom, expressing our rights to peacefully protest. Unfortunately, after what happened in Portland, people are tired. I understand. I get it. But I also don't understand why you would align yourself with a certain group that we all know have been nothing but provocateurs. Because that's all that's going to happen. They're going to go there and get people riled up like they do in every event this particular group is at. And no, the answer isn't a show of force. It's a show of solidarity. Peaceful protest, not going there to look for a fight or look to antagonize, to provoke. And it kind of disheartening to see certain individuals that are actually going to be taking part of the Freedom Rally take this stance, because that's not helping our freedom. That's actually falling into what they want us to do. They want us to clash. I didn't really want to talk about this, but it needs talked about, and it needs talked about in this first hour. We don't want, that's what they want. They want us to clash. They want us to turn something that's supposed to be a peaceful protest or a peaceful gathering for as a freedom rally in DC of all places. They want that. They will do anything to set that spark, because once you fall for that and that happens, you know what's coming. You know you're going to have so many people that keep saying these things that set this stuff. Many of them help set this stuff in motion. We know that. We've documented it. They're going to use that to say, we need to, this is civil unrest. We need to take action. We need to take the weapons. And we know thus far, thankfully, thus far, no guns have been involved in these things. But unfortunately, improvised weapon is still a weapon, whether it be a crowbar, a milkshake filled with quickcrete. It is an improvised weapon. It's still used as a weapon. Your hand is a weapon. Your legs are a weapon. Anything that's set in front of me can be used as a weapon. And they're bringing these things and causing physical harm to people. We've been lucky thus far that no one's died, but some people's been seriously hurt. We can go clear back to Berkeley, where we've seen it. And we need to, I agree, we do need to take a stance on this, but how do we do it? What's the right way? I'm going to tell you what's the wrong way. Violence with violence. Because when we interact with violence, if we're going there solely looking for a fight, we're no better than the ones that are provoking and doing these things. There's nothing wrong with standing up and defending yourself, but remember what they're trying to do. Remember, there's more than just this side and this side here at play. And I know, unfortunately, some of the ones I really want this directed at don't listen to me. I'm too small of a channel. I'm not that popular. Unfortunately, they should be listening, because, and some of these guys, people, I know they know better, and they're running off emotion right now. The fact is, they want us to act with violence. We've got other people that's got their hands in this that have been trying to push this and push this. I get it. When's it enough is enough? What are you willing? Because, all of our actions have consequences. In situations like this, your actions will have more consequences to every American person out there. That's what I want you to think about. I agree, enough is enough at certain points of this. But there's things we can do before we get there. That should be the last resort. Self-defense, you have every right to. Well, I will stand right beside you on that aspect. But don't go there looking for it. Don't go there provoking it. We have a due diligence to go start demanding that these state representatives or these mayors and governors that give orders for police officers to stand down to be removed, held accountable. We should be having talks about this subject on every platform, bringing the community, getting the community involved. We've had enough. Invite your local news, not the major networks, your local papers. Have some town halls. Address these issues with the community. Don't go out there and spreading it all across the media on all these social platforms. Do it by word of mouth. Go interact with people. Call the local news. Don't do it on the mainstream media platforms. That way, it's less likely to be tainted or bring in the very ones you don't want there. It's going to try nothing to disrupt it. We got to start using our heads, using our minds. In fact, we got to start acting like and doing like the very ones that are supporting these groups, creating these groups that never are there. You know, yeah, I know. Easiest way to push your message and get it out there is through social media. But when you do that, everybody sees it. It's on a public forum. There's nothing private anymore. We need to get back to basics, fundamental stuff, personal interaction, talking with your neighbors. Mr. Anderson brought up a great point last night on After Hours. Get to know your neighbors. If you haven't talked to your neighbors in a while, go talk to them. Get to know your surrounding neighbors, more people in your community. While you're at the local Walmart, grocery store, waiting in line, strike up a conversation. Just like today, while we're at our picnics, barbecues, beaches, wherever we may be celebrating the 4th of July, strike up a conversation of our history, what it means to be what we're celebrating. Keep the politics out of it. Because they've used politics as such a nasty weapon in the last 10, 15 years. That was just keep the politics out. We don't need the politics when we're talking about these issues. When we can use history, what our founding fathers said, what our Constitution says. Yes, there's still going to be people that will vehemently deny it. I mean, I can't have a conversation about politics with my dad because he believes everything he hears on CNN and MSNBC. Can't tell him different. Tell him it's fake news. He'll tell you everything we see here on the internet. Every people that we started listening to is fake news. So when you can't even sit there and tell them, you can go and see what exactly every politician in Congress has voted for, the bills, the laws, all you got to do. We have some access to so much information that there's no way we should have crooked politicians sitting in our Congress. Not even a little bit. Because we can see how they voted on things. We can see everything. Because everything's public now. Everything's out there. If you just take a little time to research. And I promise you, if you did that, probably 75% of Congress wouldn't even be reelected into Congress. When you start seeing the lies that they spew, I mean every day, especially during election cycles, to get your vote. And they should be held accountable for that because if they lie then, they've already broken the oath they're getting ready to take. I mean, they're running for an office of trust. If you have to lie to get an office of trust, do you think they're going to be truthful and keep those promises when they get in office? No. In fact, truth is, and I don't, by definition and law, and by our Constitution, they're not even allowed to. Once they violate that trust, they're not allowed to hold that office. Something our founding fathers understood. But our founding fathers also understood this. And, that's why we have socialists in our Congress. That's why even back then we had loyalists to the crown, the Loyalist Party. That's what they kind of called them. That were still loyal to Britain in our Congress. Because by not allowing them in was to deny what they created. It was to say, everybody has that right to freedom. That's what we're celebrating. So I know a lot of people, I don't personally like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders. I don't believe in what the socialist aspect, but people do, and they voted them in. And they have a right to be there. That's what our founding fathers wanted. In their eyes, I honestly think, especially reading some of John Rutledge's journals, that a lot of their mindsets was they would see what we created. They would see as it grows, as the years come. I mean, we're celebrating 243 years of our independence today. I mean, our nation's still considered young by standards, by history. But 243 years, we've held true for the most part to the very ideologies and things that our founding fathers created. We allow people with different political views to become members of Congress. And we have to continue to respect that. But we also have to understand as voters, we have say in that matter too. We have that right. Even though we all know the truth behind that. It's been pretty much taken away from us. And that's the biggest push with the censorship, is to take even that farther away from us, give it control of the corporations, the big tech companies, the ones that can buy the elections, which should be illegal. But our Supreme Court under Obama failed us there. They failed us in the worst way. And it's quite odd that they had to wait till Justice Scalia died before they could even vote on this. Very issue that allowed corporations to be not recognized as U.S. citizens, which they're not. They're made up of U.S. citizens, but they didn't recognize them as a singular citizen. So therefore, the Constitution didn't apply to them. On that terminology, was the Supreme Court right? Yes, but they were also wrong because that allowed influence and manipulation of our election. It allowed our elections to be bought by corporations. And one thing that Scalia brought up and fought on, which was the reason why they couldn't get a vote on this while he was alive, because a lot of our U.S. corporations are foreign owned, which allowed foreign money, foreign countries, many which we are at war with, or aren't our allies, to buy our elections, influence our elections. So no, I don't ever want to hear about influencing elections. Our very politicians do it when they only allow their constituents and those that represent that party to attend town halls that are supposed to be open to the public from all sides, will only answer questions that are derived from their side. No, that is not the way it was meant to be. That's not the way it was for many generations after our founding fathers. They were all it was done in the public forum with all sides present. We need to get back to this ways. And like many things, it starts with our communities. It starts right here at home. I think so many people think they just need to reach as many people as they can reach on social media. because that's the communities that we're taught of today. Well, how many of those people actually live in your county that are going to be voting in your county? How many of those people are going to be voting in your state? I know my friends are from all around the world. I mean, many of which are from Brazil, several from North Carolina, California, New York, Wisconsin, Florida, Texas. I mean, that's not, that's what we, so I think many of us have forgotten. That's when we say community. It's where it starts, because that's where you're at. You're in your state, you're in your county. You need to reach those people in your state and in your county. Then, once you've done that, then spread out. Or show it can be done by inviting your local citizen journalists into the community to film it, to air it live, show it live. That's what we need to get back to. You see, when we start doing things like that, now people are seeing that how the community works, how the community stands, the questions, the concerns. Now it's being showed to other people in other states and other communities. They're going to start doing the same. They're going to say, hey, look, because that's how it should be done. I don't need to go to DC to have a freedom rally when I can have it right here in my own state and with my own community. Many young voices that I know in this area speak up the way I do, share the same concerns, might have a little different views on things, but we all have the same thing. We all want our freedoms. We all want our Constitution respected, honored, and upheld. I mean, look how many live streamers that are just here in Ohio from YouTube, that are on YouTube. Be Rich. I mean, he represents the eastern, no, the western side of Ohio. No, the eastern side of Ohio. I'm on the western side of Ohio. Sword Point 9 is more in the central part of Ohio. There's streamers from Michigan. You see, guys, we're all over. Now we all see things differently. We all represent a certain an area different from the other. We all have our communities. We all have our circles. And some of us like doing things alone. We're the lone wolves. But that don't mean we don't have our circles and our own communities. Because we all do. Because even the lone wolf has to have a place to go, a place to recoup, resupply. That's why we have friends that are all over the place and all over the world. You know, there's people that do live streams that can't truly freely express themselves either because of oaths they've taken or because they're jobs that they work. It gets frustrating at times with some of them because, you do know they know things, and probably heard some of the stories that you're not supposed to really be hearing about. And you know you can't make that public. It is frustrating at times, but it's understandable and it has to be respected. Above all things, it has to be respected and honored. That's why I've been hesitant to the invest, do bring the people in to talk about what we know about what's been happening on college campuses because they're students. And we've seen, and we know what could happen. You know, their identities are revealed or somebody figures it out. And I'm still figuring out how I want to do that for that particular podcast. It's not even going to be a podcast. I've determined that it's going to be recorded. It's going to be recorded and the names aren't going to be mentioned. And I'll probably wait a year before I post it or upload it after I finish it. Just, give time. Time to forget people. Because I don't want that responsibility of costing some young kid that's been working their ass off to have a good that's going to have a good future and a career in the fields that they've chosen in college. I don't want to be the one at cost of that. And there's other ways it can be done too, and it might come out before a year. Like I said, I'm still mulling over the pros and cons and where things could go wrong. And maybe one of the best ways is for me to just do it and turn it over to somebody else that I trust to actually publish it and do it right. Another reason why I'm looking for a co-host. And other people to take part in Sons of Daughter Liberty as managers, to have their own little section here, to do what they want with, and podcast, live stream, or upload their own content. Because it is important. We have that ability to do that here on YouTube. No, I'm actually highly disappointed with Gab right now because, hey, I don't know how many's tried to click on the link to go to Gab. Yep, website not there. And which is cool. I've been pretty much well done with Gab for a while. I still post there just to share with what's there, but I'm not going through the headaches and process. They got to prove themselves to me. They censored once, almost did it again last year. Now I'm starting to stick by actions speak louder words. Your action's gonna have to. If you've done something I know in the past, like censorship, you censored somebody in the past, you bow down, then you almost bow down the second time. I'm sorry, I can't support that. I don't care what you're saying, because what you're saying reminds me what every politician says every time it comes election cycle. They set lips will say anything to get your vote, to get you over there. You know, I wasn't a big, I was not a supporter of the mines for the longest. You go catch Pirate Radio Podcast Network. While I was co-hosting, me and Jaffe had completely disagreed on the mines, but after being away for a year, going back, seeing the changes they made, seeing what they're doing to support free speech, our freedoms, our liberties, seeing what they've put in place, I had to take that back. But I'm still vocal. I'm not a fan of blockchain. I'm not a fan of cryptocurrency, not one bit. I think that's very wrong and going in the wrong direction. And, I'm not going to say what other people say, which makes no sense when they say it. They're actually hypocrites when they say it. If you say it and you claim it to be a beast system and you're using it, don't ever talk about religion to me. You just discredit yourself by using it. If you come at me, well, it's a tool, and you keep everything else out of it, I'll respect that. But when you're constantly saying, oh, it's the beast system, it's the beast system. If you believe that, why are you using it? Why are you encouraging others to come there? Especially people that have that same Christian mindset about the beast system or the mark of the beast, revelations, and all that jazz, which I really don't. But if that's, because I got a lot of Christian friends. Heck, most people don't even realize I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, First Faith Baptist Church in Wasion. I also went to a Catholic private school in Brazil, got to experience Catholicism. And after that, coming back to the Baptist church, being saved, baptized, you know, I went to other churches, other denominations to see. I had to see for myself. Is it the same? What's different? Because there was always that question. There was always something I didn't like. I didn't like it when that Baptist preacher, that fire and brimstone. We all know. For anybody, it is amazing to listen and watch a Baptist preacher preach. I, the, when they, yes, it's amazing. That's my personal opinion. I know Pentecostals say the same thing about that, but it's different. The energy's different. The feel, the people getting up, singing, dancing, speaking in tongues. You didn't see that in the Baptist church where I went. It was a whole different feel. But in the end, when it came to homosexuality, other dominations, no. They would just say, it's wrong, it's evil. I mean, it was fire and brimstone. That's actually the one part that almost every domination you'd see when it came to certain topics, the Catholic Church or other dominations. They would, no, that's not spirituality. That's not religion. This is what actually taints religion, is the dogma. That's why I got away from the churches. All of them. It's because it's the dogma. It should never be about the dogma. It should be about the spiritual aspect, your connection with God. Going there to, when we go to when we go to church on Sundays, we go there to worship and sing praise to God. Not bash a group of people because they have different beliefs or follow a different domination. And it was like that in every church I went to. And I went to them all. Met some great people, still friends with many. I met some people that could touch you and tell you what your ailments were. Amazing people. But you got to be open-minded. Can't judge people. I'm friends with ex-felons and convicts. They made mistakes. I know many that we label them as we call them, it's a label, the 1% that actually get out. And people that don't understand what our prison systems and our judicial systems are like, it's designed to be a revolving door. It's designed to keep you in the system. That's wrong. It never should be like that. They've taken all the education out of the system. They've taken all the trades out of the system. A lot of people, oh yeah, they don't need to be learning nothing. Okay, if they don't learn nothing in there, they can't get educated in there. How do you expect them to come out and make something of themselves, not to repeat that process over? Most places won't hire a convicted felon anymore. They've changed the rules to where it doesn't matter how long your conviction was. It could be something clear back in the 80s or 70s. Now, places of employment can go back and look at that, and not hire them. They made it so hard for people that want to get out, become better, not repeat their mistakes. You can't find a job, that's a probation violation or a parole violation. You're going back. And we know so many people from 2008 to up to, well, even to this day, have been violated and sent back because they can't find jobs, can't get work. They give you only so much time to get a job. Then if you don't, you just broke your parole or violate or probation. You're going back. Why? Because the states get paid for each person that goes to jail, goes to prison. Most of our prisons have become privately run. It is a multi-billion-dollar operation. Our prison systems are no longer prison systems, they're corporation systems. That's what our systems have become. So many of our systems have become so corrupt, so abused, designed to keep you trapped in them. That's not what we're celebrating today. That's not what today's supposed to be about. But it's issues that need to be addressed as well today. Because these are people's freedoms that are being taken from them. They're being oppressed. They're having their rights and liberties taken away. And most people are taught to judge them by their past, not who they've become. Many of these people come out, do everything in their power. They have to give 200% instead of 100% just to get out of the system. They walk in on eggshells. But they're never going to have the high-end jobs that you guys got. It's getting to the point where they can't even get into construction fields anymore, which used to be pretty much all their bread and butter to get into. And we have all these systems. Yeah, I need to start getting back into the broken systems and get videos again. Because there's just so much that's been used and abused and designed to keep people trapped, oppressed. Just like many of these convicted felons. Here's something you guys don't know. Well, I bet most of you don't know. A convicted felon loses all rights. Constitutional rights, Bill of Rights. Lose all rights. They made it to a point that now to get those rights back, it used to be once you were off probation and parole, those rights were returned to you. No, not anymore. Now if you want those rights back, you've got to go to court, pay the court so much money, which most of those guys don't have that money, get lawyers to get your rights back. Our God-given rights, as our founding fathers put it. They should never be stripped of their rights. That's why what certain states have tried to do, allowing prisoners to vote, is illegal. Because the federal laws that were put in place preventing convicted felons and criminals the ability to vote until they were unincarcerated and off probation and parole. But now we have states that don't even recognize that part of the law, saying, no, you need to go back to court to get your rights. But some people's mindsets, because they've been taught this, they should never have their rights back. Let me ask you something. How many times you made a mistake? How many times you've done something wrong? Some of you have done some things that are wrong you just never got caught for. You're no better than they are. None of us are. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. We need to stop judging people by their past and see them for what they are today. Did they learn from that? Are they repeating that? No. Have they made something better? They become role models of the communities? Many do. Because they feel that they have to prove themselves. They know they screwed up. Many of them are trying to regain that trust that they lost with their families and friends. You know, so yeah, today we're celebrating our independence, our freedom. Many people aren't free because of mistakes they've made. Some, they never even made the mistake. They just got wrongfully convicted. It still happens to this day. And a wrongful conviction should never happen with what we have in place, the access, the tools, the technology that we have. But nobody cares about the criminals. Nobody cares about those that made a mistake because that's where they belong. Now that's not very independence-like, is it? Even our founding fathers during the war, yes, they took prisoners, but they were released. They didn't take their rights away. In fact, they gave them rights and freedoms. You know, we have so many issues right here in our own backyards. And we worry about what's going on around the world. Are we here with the immigration issue? Everybody talking about our border. Well, let's get something straight now, as I have in the past. When it comes to immigration, what's happening in the border is not immigration. But we have politicians that want to say that instead of using the proper legal terminology for it. Illegal alien. That's what's happening on our border. And it's going to get bad. Now, they were already talking about this week. A whole huge caravan of people that's from Africa, Somalia, and those areas in Africa. And for those that don't understand why I'm bringing this up, they've already been found 2 people with Ebola that's been traveling trying to come to our border. They didn't reach our border, thankfully. I think it was in Guatemala or Mexico, somewhere in between there. They were caught and they they've been detained and quarantined. You know, we had the president of El Salvador saying, you know, it ain't, we're not the cause of it. The crisis at our border isn't our cause. It's, he's like, part of it's my country's cause. Part of it's other countries' causes. We're not doing our jobs if people are fleeing our countries. Probably one of the most honest and truthful statements I've heard a president of any country say, because it was true. We're not the only country that's got issues when it comes to our political spectrum. We're not the only country that has corruption in our political system. But where we differ from most countries, and this is why, well, we'll jump to immigration. That's why so many immigrants come here and become U.S. naturalized citizens. That's why Pence today, this morning, swore in, recognized 50 immigrants as U.S. naturalized citizens. They went through the process. They did it right. They didn't come here illegally. They came here with the proper paperwork, the proper visas, went through the process that they have to go through to become a United States citizen. Why? Because they want the very same thing we're celebrating today. What's happening at our border is a simple matter and solution. It's illegal. All those people that are coming here, if they didn't stop at the embassy and sought asylum and started the process, and they just went right past our embassies, they've committed it. And they tried to cross over our border, they've committed a crime. And it's quite simple. We don't need to be holding them. Ship them right back. What's going to happen? And we're seeing more cases of mumps, measles, stuff that we haven't seen in forever being reintroduced. You know, I stated this in the chat last night and after hours. This is one of the most ancient tactics of war. You start flooding their borders with refugees, asylum seekers. You start putting a strain on their borders, which will eventually start putting a strain on their economics, their food stores. It will also introduce, we practiced this during Revolution too. We practiced this during the American Indian Wars as well. You start introducing new diseases, you know, that that country didn't have, had gotten rid of. You reintroduce those things back into the. So yes, it's very important to have a very secure border. It's very important to have a good screening process, making sure people don't come in that's infected with these diseases. Now, what is the first thing you're taught when you go to, if you're going to go visit Mexico? Don't drink their water. Why? It's different. It's not safe to drink because we're not used to that. But the Mexican citizens, it don't bother them. They're used to it. They grew up drinking that water. To where if we go do it, we get sick. Same with when I go to Brazil. Take at least 3 or 4 months before I can actually drink that water without getting deathly sick. Until your body immune system builds up to and creates immunities to the things that are there. That's why we have to get so many shots, so many different shots when we travel abroad. These little things are common sense things. These little things about our borders, about what I just did, is also can be seen throughout history. It's a military tactic that every nation, every country, every empire has used. It falls under the poison the well category, which is broad for those that don't know the terminology. Most of the military contractors out there know what I say when I say poison the well. That's just one aspect of it. That one aspect, by pushing mass caravans of people, trying to flood people's borders, has so many different consequences. It's poisoning our well. It's poisoning our economics, our food, our health. And, that's the part that kills me. We have veterans that are right now on our Independence Day that are homeless, not enjoying a barbecue, not enjoying a picnic, barely getting by. And just not our vets, there's Americans that are homeless. And we've seen, I mean, just type in tent cities in YouTube. That should make you sick as an American to see that in our own backyards. To see these politicians that are screaming, we need to let these people in, but they bring up the homeless thing in their very own backyards where they're from. Not a word. Let's talk about humanity and being humane. Don't want to hear those words ever again thrown at me about a politician that I'm being inhumane. No, not even a little bit. Because I actually do care about the homeless in my area, the veterans in my area, the sex trafficking that's going on in my area. That's going through every one of your areas that most people have turned a blind eye on. Most people, local news won't even report. Maybe I'm blessed at the fact that our local news do talk about those things. I mean, Toledo 11, WTLL is awesome because they do report things. I've seen it even on their Twitter feeds. Just like today, they're playing the national anthem on every broadcast they do. Every news time, 12 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, they'll play the national anthem, honoring America, honoring what they say. They always report about the stings for the massage parlors and everything, the sex trafficking. They're on top of it. I give respect for that. So that's why I said not all news networks are bad. Yes, they're still owned by CBS, but they still, I mean, some of our reports that we found the past few years when I was talking about that thing that didn't happen here, that don't happen here in America. Well, it didn't happen here because in America it's because all those cases were being sealed. So the public didn't know about it. And people started investigating right after Trump got in office. We started uncovering those sealed cases. And they started becoming public to where we had a huge terrorist problem going on here in the United States under Obama. And there was many convictions across the states, every state. And a lot of that we found through local news, local investigative reporters, and those news agencies. So no, not all news is bad. But even they got to follow their rules. You know, they get their checks from CBS. Because I know everybody refers to that video where everything's scripted. Whoever put that together, you did a great job. But that's not entirely the truth either. Truth is, Toledo 11 News shows both sides when it comes to candidates. They interview both sides, ask questions to both sides. So no, I can't stand by that statement. You know, sometimes I think we hang on every word that every streamer on here says. You know, I was blessed to be gone for a year, back into social society, integrating with college kids and other people, hearing all the different views and opinions, hearing people, the young, the youth, the very ones that we said don't get it, aren't awake, are brainwashed and all that stuff we were saying, not entirely true. Yes, there's some out there still are. Many of them are actually awake. Many of them actually watch us. Believe it or not, that's what shocked me. I think that was the biggest shock. You mean you watch me? You watch Be Rich, Dabu? I've never seen you in the chat room. Oh, we don't like chatting. We're afraid we'll say something and they'll jump on us. No, I respect that because I've seen it happen. You know, I kind of knew before then because I did know of a couple younger people that were watching my streams, which that really forced me to start using the age restriction thing because I knew I had under 18-year-olds watching my content. So we are reaching people. We just don't see it. And maybe we need to get away from actually having to see it to believe it. That's why, I mean, I don't care about my numbers. I don't care how many thumbs up I get, thumbs down I get, how many subscribers or followers I have. Actually, I feel blessed to have 72, and I like it because I get to interact when they jump in on the chat. My chat's not moving a mile a minute. And I'm just not on YouTube. I mean, in fact, these streams are going to be posted on every platform I'm on. And every platform, I have different numbers, different statistics. So yes, I'm reaching far more people than what people realize. You know, I've had to make some tough decisions over the past couple weeks. You know, once you leave YouTube and you run from it, I won't support you. I won't share your content no more. Because we do have to take a stand. We'll get more into that in the very last 2 hours at 6. United we stand, divided we fall. Comes a point This is something our founding fathers understood clearly. There comes a point where we have to take a stand. No more running, and most of us should know better by now. Doesn't matter where we go, there's no such thing as a safe place. There's no such thing where we're not going to have these issues. I don't care what they say. Why? I've done more than experienced it. I've been there. I've helped build platforms. I was building my own, including working on the server side of things, getting it ready to be installed in place until the lawyers, four of them to be exact, bursted my every concept of free speech on the internet. No government is going to allow it. You have to abide by every country's rules, including your own. And here in the United States, they're going to push censorship. They're going to force you to adhere, or you're going to lose everything. All the money that you put in here, you'll lose. And they wanted to make sure we understood that before we spent the first $10,000 on the first server. That's the cheapest you can get, guys. They start at 10K. If you want your own server, 10K. And when you start getting into that, I mean, there's some people know how to build them. So they, but they're more private and they're in their homes. We're talking about real servers where I can bring in everybody. But eventually it's going to get taxed. You're going to have to build another one or install another server into that complex. Somebody has to be there 24/7 monitoring everything. A tech on call 24/7. And the whole time you've got to deal with every government, every country's government that you allow their people on to your platform, onto your servers. So, reality check to those that think running's the answer. Nope. Don't care what platform it is, eventually they're going to be reeled in. Or they're going to be shut down. Blocked. Sorry guys, been there, done that. So you guys can keep living in that illusion. I mean, even the mines. So like I said, blockchain's not the answer. The answer is picking a spot and standing together and making it, sending the evidence you catch when somebody gets banned, suspended, no matter who it is, what they're talking about. If their freedoms and liberties were affected, start taking it, getting the evidence, getting the screenshots, video evidence, and sending it to your representative. If your representative won't do the job, guess what? They don't get your vote. Make sure it's addressed to your community, your fellow people that are going to be voting in your states. Take that evidence, put it before them. This is what's happening. This is how this congressman, congresswoman voted. This is how they ignored our evidence. They're supposed to be representing us. They're supposed to be listening to us. And if they failed to do that on something just as simple as protecting our freedom of speech, what else do you think they're not going to do for you? We all have our own opinions and views and things, but when it comes to our freedoms and liberties, our rights, our justice systems, no, we should be very, very much passionate about it and defenders of it. If those we put to represent us will not defend it and uphold their oaths, they shouldn't be holding those positions. And we should be the voice that's demanding that they be removed. That's our due diligence. That's what our founding fathers declared on this day. No more. We're not going to be oppressed. We're going to be free from oppression. We're going to have rights. We're going to have liberties. That's what we're celebrating today. Stop running. Start taking a stance. There's a right way to do things. And it starts with you in your communities being vocal, standing up, using your voice. It ain't going there. I'm going to go to the freedom of speech rally. I'm going to get all these people. I'm going to bring this group in here who we all know is trouble. All they do is provoke. Provoke. For those who don't know, when I say that group, I'm clearly speaking about the Proud Boys. We all know it. We've all watched it. Watched them provoke people. Good. They're only there to find a fight. I'm all for standing in solidarity and unity to protect people that can't protect themselves. But when you start bringing in fringe groups like that we know their track record and their history, you just killed your cause. You're just going there. You're running off emotions. You're pissed off, mad. I get it. I am too. But I also know the answer is not to give what the people that's created these groups, that created Antifa, want. They want us to finally say enough is enough and take it into our matters in our own hands. They want us to get emotionally charged, triggered, and lash out. Because then they win. Then they got what they need to come and take even more of our freedoms and liberties. You know? Oh yeah, well, why not? Thanks, Be Rich. Next subject. Nike. Oh, we all know Nike. I mean, anybody's played sports in school, college level, even the professional level, you know Nike. Yeah, American company. Used to be. But yet, because of one person on this very day 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe, and from another country talked about how much he hated America, how much Amer- America and Trump and everybody else. Yeah, he should have stayed in that country. Spoilt little rich brat that has had his 15 minutes of fame and the people found out he was garbage as a football player. But Nike wanted to hold on to his every word, and they recalled their Nike shoe with the Betty Ross flag on it, which was probably the biggest mistake they did, and it cost them millions yesterday. They lost millions, and they're going to lose millions and more. Let me tell you something. I quit buying Nike after I got out of sports. You want to know why? Because even back in the 90s, we knew about them using slave labor camps and sweatshops over in China, Taiwan, or the Philippines. They were busted even back in the 90s. They were cheaper to have the stuff made here, over in these countries, and shipped back here. I know there's a big argument about tariffs. There's a reason why we need fair tariffs, because it stops stuff like that. It stops supporting countries that run sweatshops, basically slave labor camps, and stops these big companies from having that stuff made over here and cheaply bringing it back here. So we can pay, what, $200, $300 for the Air Jordans? Or whatever pro players shoe line they're putting out. And quite frankly, we all know Nike's track history. Lucky if the shoes last 6 months. Plenty of American made companies, mom and pop stores around that make good quality stuff. There's American companies that support our soldiers, support and defend our Constitution, want our freedoms, that hire Americans, not illegals, hire Americans. Don't put their plants in other countries where they can use cheaper labor. Those are the people we should support, and those are the products we should be buying. But no, we've let our celebrities, our wannabe sports figures that claim to be role models, dictate things. No. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to sports people, there's some out there that, man, They're true pillars of the community. They are actual role models. But I can't say that for the whole of the professional sports, because most of them aren't. Most of them, it's all about the money. How much you gonna pay me to say that? Okay. See, speaking of Toledo 11, WTOL, on that Friday, 1969, people in Toledo were preparing to enjoy a traditional 4th of July with picnics, boating, and fireworks. Any flash those plans changed. Looks like a storm. Yeah, which is something, yeah, we're kind of being careful with today. We've got threat of severe weather all the way till it's been all week. Actually, actually, there's a post that they posted I actually wanted to talk about. Something I didn't even know. Right. I almost overlooked it because it was three. They talked about three presidents that had died on Independence Day, on our 4th of July. But I found this interesting. Did you know three U.S. presidents died on the July 4th, including John Adams, who said of the day, "It ought to be solemnized with pomp, parade, with games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from time forward forevermore." I never knew John Adams said that, and it should be, because that's what, even them, back then. I didn't know Thomas Jefferson died on the 4th. James Monroe, too. But that is what we should be celebrating. Let me read this again. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, illuminations from one end of the continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. See, we had presidents back then that understood what Independence Day is about, why it's so important, why we celebrate it. And like I said, amazing that we have, that's the local news reporting these things. Because it's also what we're celebrating, our history. And so many people made a big deal. Uh-oh. All right. Looks like Hangouts is acting up again. Now that's part of our history. I know so many people wanted to make a big deal about Trump bringing in the military tanks and stuff. He's not the first president did it. Oh, in fact, it was the common practice back in the day. JFK did it. I don't think anybody's ever going to say a bad thing about JFK. Well, maybe the new generation doesn't know him, but the older generation, oh no, that was their president. Before him, during World War II, Eisenhower did it. Roosevelt did it. It's been the thing to invite our military and armed service to DC to celebrate, to parade in front of our nation, because they're the ones that are serving, protecting, putting their lives on the line, and sacrificing for those freedoms and rights. They are honored on this day just as much as they are on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Armed Forces Day, because they're the ones that make sure we have these rights and freedoms, these liberties. So, no, I don't want to hear talk about that either, because by doing so, you're disrespecting the soldiers. It's like I said, gotta remember your history. That's why it's so important that today you bring up that history. Talk about why this nation's such a great nation. Why this country is so great. No, remember our history. Remember. Remember what our founding fathers fought for. Why we have a Declaration of Independence. Teach our youth. Teach our kids. Because many of that stuff isn't being taught in the schools anymore. It's been omitted from the history books. I know certain places where the Boston Tea Party is not even allowed to be taught in the history class. The very thing that sparked it all. Many, even Patrick Henry's speech is not taught in most history classes in our schools. Give me liberty or give me death. It is on us, the older generation, to teach our younger generation, not the school systems. And today's a perfect day to use that to teach history. Why are we having the fireworks? Why we're celebrating? Why we are going to the beach and various places and later going to the parks to watch the local fireworks. Use this opportunity. Don't waste it. You see, many things that our forefathers understood. We want change, we got to be that change. The change starts with us. Then we can start making changes outside our homes. Because when we start making those changes, people start seeing those changes. It starts drawing those people to us. Now, there is such a thing as frequency and vibrations. People see that, they feel that, and they're drawn to it. That's why like-minded individuals are more drawn to each other than opposites. It takes us a little while before the opposites see. Like I said, here shortly I will be shutting this stream down and taking a little break. At 2:10, I will hopefully we'll try it. There's no promises I'm gonna be able to do this because I don't know, my internet's kind of being funny today. But I am going to try to open up the phone lines. I can't do that from Hangouts, so I have to open up my Streamlabs OBS, then open up Uber. I'm going to use Uber Conference just because it's easier for me to use, and I've had no issues with it. I'm still learning with the Zoom plus. I can't afford to pay to play, so I pretty much can only do an hour with the Zoom anyway. So, but Uber Conference works great, perfect, and it'll go. I know I already tested it. Goes right through my Streamlabs, not a problem. I do want you guys all to know that are listening, no matter what podcast I'm doing today, you guys are all welcome to join into the Hangouts. You're welcome to join in conversating in the chat. I'll interact with you there. When I switch over to the Gathering, I'm still going to be on YouTube, so because it's the only place you can stream from the Gathering from is to YouTube. But I'll also send out links, give you the links to join on the Minds and the Gathering. I'll do it from my phone. for the link side. But it's, that's the important thing. Open it up to people that want to come in. I knew probably the first couple of hours, I wasn't going to get that many people in because we're celebrating. But this is something I enjoy doing. I know last couple of years I usually had a guest on at the first hour or two. But this year, some of the people that I normally come on are doing things with their family this year. And it doesn't matter. These videos are up. Once this is done, seems BitChute's got their little issue fixed. This video will be automatically uploaded to BitChute. And all these videos, because once it's done, I'll instantly download it. It's another reason for the 10-minute break. And they will all be uploaded on archive.org. That's I won't really, can't risk it because I'll have to close these browsers out for the next one. But there's something else that we're going to get into maybe in the third segment. Yeah, the different browsers. Now, there's a little illusion there too, guys. Most of those, even the different browsers, are still got search engines that tie to Google. So, like I said, there's no getting away from a lot of these things because, well, for one, Google's been around the longest. It has the biggest archive of information, so to speak, and they tie into that. Every platform, any coder, the first search engine that's programmed into your platform is Google Search. But that's also getting into understanding how to run tags, meta tags, because that's what the search engines pick up on. Normally, I don't mess with any of that stuff. I'll leave it blank. Another measure that allows you to, they have censorship on these platforms, so things. Sometimes leaving your tags blank is the best thing you can do. Then other times, it's needed. Like today, it's got tags and meta tags because I want to reach more people. Even though I know it's not going to happen. Because I know I'm on that list of people that, if you find it, it's probably way down in the stream unless you follow this channel. That's something else people don't get. When you search stuff, the first things that's going to come up are the sites that you normally go to. So like me, if I search myself, of course it's going to show me my stuff at top. Where somebody that may have never heard of me or never heard of the video types it in, it might be 3 or 4 pages in. Because in a sense we do teach our browsers. They monitor our search, our keystrokes. They know our likes and dislikes. Much like YouTube's AI. This thing's a beast. Trust me. It's an awesome creation, but wow. What it can do is mind blowing to a point, and it's scary at times as well because it picks up in your voice, it picks up on how you're articulating your voice, whether you're getting emotional, and it starts showing. It picks up on that. So whether you're male, female, but there's more to the AI thing, and that's not for today anyway. I don't even know if that's for this channel. But then again, it might be. Who knows? It's just not for today. Today's about talking about our Independence Day, celebrating it. Hopefully getting some callers in the next for the next 2 hours. Well, hopefully it works. Just because my streaming's not that great right now. For doing Hangouts, which they finally gave the date. Hangouts, I'm going to read this. I can't do that. This Hangout on Air is live. We all know that little box. Right now we got a blue box. Hangout on Air is going away August 1st. For quick streaming, try youtube.com/webcam, which the other day when I did the channel update, that's what I used. There ain't no sharing screens. There is nothing other than the webcam. So the only options we're going to have is our streaming software if we still want to do share screens and do call-ins and stuff like that, have groups of people. We're going to have to use software like Streamlabs OBS, Broadcaster, XSplit, or the various other ones that are out there. I don't have really the internet to run those, which really prevents me from running Restream. I mean, I got all that stuff set up. I just don't have the internet to do it. It just taxes my system to the point where it's not there. But I am going to attempt the call-ins. If it don't work, I will just simply shut it down, come back on Hangouts, and I'll drop the link for the Hangouts in the chat. So that's how we're going to work that. It worked pretty good testing it yesterday. Didn't have really no issues. So kind of hoping that have the same results today, because I really do want to hear your opinions and views. You know, I want to hear what you want us to talk about, and other people do as well, because that's kind of what this channel is about. Sons and daughters of liberties. You guys are the sons and daughters of liberty. Your voices matter, truthfully, more than mine. This has always been and will always be open to everyone. No matter our differences, our past differences, because in the end, we're all brothers and sisters. In the end, we actually have to show each other respect. I expect that you respect me enough not to try to suppress my freedom of speech, suppress my views and opinions, and I'm not going to do that to you. But with that said, I've already. Okay, it's 1:57. I was about to say I already went over the 2-hour mark. Actually, I should be under the 2-hour mark because I got a little late start. But I am going to try to stay on schedule today, except for maybe the next episode, because we get callers in, keep having callers in. I'll run it till we don't have callers. Just like I might end it early if we don't get no callers, because my voice is not that great today. I've got a really bad sore throat, and if it wasn't for the tea and honey and throat lozenges, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. I could barely talk last night. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, take a little break, give you guys a chance that are actually watching, listening, a chance to use the bathroom, refresh your drinks. I need to get something to drink and a little something to snack on. But for those that are just catching this, I will be back at 2:10 with live call-ins. We're just taking a little break. I want to wish everybody a happy Independence Day. And God bless America. I will see you here shortly.